Hello everyone, Luzeldon here. Today I'm going to go over the basics of how I build a deck. Keep in mind, this is how I build the deck, the Luzeldon edition of deck building, not the general deck building guide, because I know many people build decks in different ways and not everyone would want to do it my way. So why would I build my own deck and why would you build your own deck? Of course, it's unique to you. You're playing something that nobody else plays, at least for a moment, right? Because to be completely honest, if your deck gets popular, if it's a really good deck and people realize it's good, they're gonna copy it. So the originator of the deck is still you. So it's kind of cool, right? Making something unique. And the second point is fairly important as well. When the deck is only played by you and you alone, nobody's gonna know how to counter it. For meta decks, right? The information is very readily available on the internet. You can just go look it up at any point. Or if you go up against them enough, you even know them by heart. You know exactly what they're doing. You know exactly what they keep in their opening hand if they have the choice. And you know exactly every single card in their deck. Against homebrews, it is a lot harder to do exactly that. Even in an open decklist tournament, it is still fairly difficult to guess exactly how the card is going to be used. Me, as a homebrew player, actually have a much harder time going against fellow homebrews than against meta decks. And of course, deck building is actually pretty fun. It's a way to play the game. The main deck building process for me are divided into 5 main parts. Each of these parts will actually have an in-depth to them, which I'm not going to go over in basic deck building guide of sort. First, we have to have the core of the deck, the support. The deck needs to have synergy. You need to look at the bigger picture when making decks, and of course we need to tune the deck after making them. The core of the deck is basically what the deck wants to do, how you win. Why would you make this deck in the first place? For example, my Rek'Sai deck revolves around abusing the fact that a Mono Shurima deck have a free Sun Disc at any point, Unleash Energy which is buff Rek'Sai by 4, while Golden Ambassador is guaranteed to get Rek'Sai. Basically means that on turn 5, if you Ambassador on 4, play Rek'Sai and have Unleash Energy in your hand, you gotta flip Rek'Sai with just basically 2 cards. This is free and this is from this. Same goes for Fortune, right? I basically use the Blade Dance engine, Blade Dance keyword, I guess, to level Fortune much faster than she would otherwise be. Now the core of the deck can be any number of cards, like a beginning spot, a starting point. It could be 3, it could be 4, it could even be 10 if you could make the core, the idea work, if that's required for the idea to work. For your information, my Horns of the Dragon deck only has 2 cores. It's Horns and Might. Okay, for the support, how do you make the core actually work? For example, in a Karma Go Hard deck, you want to hit turn 10, right? How do you hit turn 10? You want to start off the game. You include Senna to make Go Hard fast, so it could be used to remove units on opponent's turn. You use Catalog of Regrets to multiply your value, to use Go Hard more, to cast other spells more. Concussive Palm prolong the length of the game. You can use this alongside Catalog to also generate some board and stop many units in many turns. And Fast Ruination gets rid of the entire board at fast speed. And so on. Even aggro decks, in my eyes, do have a core and a support. At least ships the opponent's health early game while you finish the opponent with Decimate by mid game. And you support this idea by using Frenzied Skitterer to remove blockers, to buff Elise, using Precious Pet to flip her, and attack of course to do ship damage. You use Station or Looker to do ship damage and perhaps remove a big threat on the opponent's board too. And Nox Inferrer could be used to turn a 1/1 spider into 3 damage to the face. Now, synergy of the card. You don't want to just play cards because they are good. You want to play cards because they're good together in your deck. What I mean is, for example, Zed is a solid card on its own, has been around in many metas, and Might is, well, a strong game ender for many decks. However, when used together, they are especially strong, right? When Might is used on a level 2 Zed, he can basically end games, right? 2 big overwhelm attackers and such. And that's already good on its own, right? But we add more. We add Rune Reckoner to that, and suddenly Zed can attack twice. We follow that up by God Willow on Reckoner, and we can attack even more. And so on and so forth. Now, big picture. What do I mean big picture? Due to a lack of better words, this is what I call all this. Basically, you look at cards as what they do instead of what they are. For example, Blinding Assault is a 2-mana soul spell, right? It's also a 2/1 unit. It is a removal of sword because of the challenger, and it is of course a scout because Valor is a scout. What that means is when you are looking for a removal for a certain deck, a certain type of deck, you can consider Blinding Assault one of the set removals. Let's say for this very certain deck, you want exactly 5 removals. You run 3 Fleet-Footed Tigers, you need another 2, and you need them to be cheap. The best option would probably be Blinding Assault because it's also a removal, it's also a 2/1, on top of being a scout, so this could be considered a scout for that deck too. This would matter when you need a very specific number of cards in that certain range. For example, you might need 5 2/1 challengers and 5 scouts. You can basically run 3 Fleet Feather, and maybe 3 of some random scout, I don't know what, and you can run 2 of this to fulfill the condition of both. These are just examples of how you break down a card and what they do. And of course, when you calculate like certain odds, I want to advertise this. Swim's hypergeometric calculator actually is very useful when you build a deck because calculating ratios manually is actually a very lengthy process. And Swim made our life much easier by putting this available on his website, swimstream.com. And lastly but not least, the tuning process. After you are done with your 40 card deck, it will never be perfect. You're only done with the theory part. It's time to put the deck into action, right? And what better place to like put it into action and know what's good and what's bad than directly into the meta. You're gonna need to test a lot of games for consistency, maybe like at least 20, 30. Me personally, if I want a deck to be like valid, perfect in my eyes, I need to test like hundreds of games to make sure it's not a fluke. There's no fluke win and such anymore. You need to be consistent. For a good example would be in my latest list. I really like the Godwiller combo. Like this is really nice, right? You Z on 3 into Reckoner on 4 into Godwiller on 5 and the opponent cannot even block. Except in some games, Reckoner doesn't come into my hand and Godwiller got no target. So just cut it to 2 to make the deck more consistent. Those are just examples, right? Okay, thank you very much for watching. See you again soon.